This episode is sponsored by Fostering UK, one of the UK's premier fostering agencies. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you will know that we do not promote things lightly. If we talk about it, it's because we genuinely believe in it. And this one's personal. Louise actually fosters for them. After years of difficult experiences elsewhere, particularly around poor support and lack of real therapeutic understanding for the children in her care, she transferred to Fostering UK, and they do exactly what they say they do. And that's rare in our sector. They are therapeutic foster care specialists. The support is real, the training high quality, the matching is thoughtful, and the relationships feel human, not corporate. They focus on quality, proper therapeutic training, minimal placement breakdowns, and genuinely putting carers and children and families first. So, whether you're completely new to fostering or you are an experienced carer feeling unsupported and thinking about transferring, this could be very, very, very different for you. If you'd like a personal introduction, you can email us at sarahanderson@fosterwiki.com or Louise at louise-allen.com. Right, let's get into this episode.
Hello, welcome back. It's episode 25 of Foster Care and Uncovered. And today's episode we have named Tales from the Kitchen Table. And what a hot, sizzling kitchen table that is today as well. It is so hot. I am looking at a woman, Sarah, aren't I, that is feeling the heat here.
Oh, I'm just doing that whole British thing of, oh, it's warm, but then there's warm. But look what I've got.
Oh my goodness, can I just say to listeners that Sarah is holding a rather elegant, beautiful cup that says it takes a village in lovely slate grey on white. And at the end of that is Foster Wiki. She has her merch. The woman has her merch.
My merch. Now listen, I haven't advertised it big yet because, you know, we don't have, unlike other charitable fostering organisations that have £3 million a year to spend on staff. Yes, I did look it up. We don't. So I've been Carl's been marvellous and he's put Shopify up, and then it connects with this thing called Printful. See, you're already all confused, aren't you? And
Yes.
then it has to talk to each other. And to get the orders right. So I've got a few hiccups I need to smooth out. So if anybody out there knows about Shopify and Printful, please get in touch. But you can order things online. It's just that some of them are saying they're not available in certain sizes, which isn't true. It's just some kind of hiccup. There are thousands of them and they're print on demand. So we've got the mugs, we've got the water bottles, we've got the T-shirts and sweatshirts, and we've got a lovely hat.
A
baseball cap, yes. It says Foster Wiki, but I'm going to have another one with It Takes a Village on. Yes. So I need to, tech. So anyway, there it is, and I'm really pleased with it. It's lovely.
Beautiful. So, well, it's good. It's good that you're here, everyone, and there's a lot to get through this week, isn't there, Sarah?
Is. Yeah,
we're continuing to do what this podcast tries to do: say out loud what has been left unsaid for far too long. And I'm genuinely excited about our second half today, Tales from the Kitchen Table. Sarah, that is such a great title, because it gets at something we don't talk about nearly enough: the reality that fostering is messy, complicated, unpredictable, and deeply human, which frankly is exactly why it matters. And before we move on, last week when we had the fantastic guest John Pierce here, I had just come in from watching my cat being run over. Do you remember?
Oh, yes.
A few people said, "Oh my God, how's your cat?" Well, bloody cat. Well, that cat was a therapy cat for one of our children that's going through a lot at the moment. And the cat looked at me just before she ran off. I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to die. She's going to take herself under a hedge and she's going to die. I was walking around lifting up bramble and everything. And then Lloyd, my husband, was doing it. We made a pact. Do not tell the children. Do not tell the children anything. If they ask where she's gone, just say, oh, she's up the fields with the rabbits and the whatever. Do not. And then, and then that night, I was worried about it all the time. I was, because I was going to lie, and I hate lying. I was the worst liar.
And
I
he
was just
strolled
cry.
in.
And I said, oh my God, I've got to deal with the stress now that I'm lying. And also I've got to deal with the stress that this cat is significant into one of the children's lives. So with a very heavy heart, I went to bed, Lloyd went to bed, and then sort of about 11:45, Lloyd went, can you hear that? What? Can you hear that? What's that?
What you do in the middle of the night?
I went flying downstairs and opened the front door, and in she walks, tail up. I thought,
Do you know what? This is a conversation when a cat is not just a cat.
No, it's
and foster carers listening to this will absolutely know. A dog is not just a dog. A cat is not just a cat.
There's so much more at stake.
It's not just a hamster.
No, there's much more at stake.
Pets
but anyway,
are quite important. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let's have a quick, but first let's have a quick look at the response to last week's episode where we were joined by the incredible John Pierce OBE. We've been generally overwhelmed, haven't we, Sarah? Not just from carers, but right across the sector.
Oh, the whole system.
It's incredible. People said they were shouting, yes, 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 at the podcast, particularly around John's ideas on family-based care, which there's the way to go.
We love it, don't we?
And the argument that the current system was designed for a different era. We've always said that. I go right back to the century. A different era, and simply isn't fit for purpose now. We love that. Ideas we have, I have to say, run with rather much enthusiasm, as always, because that hit on something we genuinely believe in, and we're trying to find the words for years. But
family-based care.
Yeah. So,
and those who don't want to roll with that don't have to. We're not being divisive or anything here. We're saying we respect everyone. Everyone can do whatever they want to do. But I know there's a huge cohort of foster carers who've been clambering for some kind of title, because foster carer, so many connotations, so many, I don't care what anybody says. You say you're a foster carer and it comes with all of that they've engineered.
You go beige in a second.
We go beige in a second. So, but we don't, it's not foster care anymore. It is family-based care, and it's serious. So, I think that that feedback about John was fantastic, especially in the light of all this defensiveness I've heard around the country, local authority managers mostly actually trying to say to their carers they're not allowed to listen to us.
They don't understand rock and roll apart, do they? Because the moment you try and set through a ban,
they don't understand where their power starts and ends.
No,
we're not in the communist city of China or whatever. We're in Great Britain here, and what's more, we're self-employed. So to try and then they've tried to start podcasts up in their own local authorities, and everyone's going, oh no thanks.
Well, they told to listen Louise. To those. You have to listen to those podcasts.
So and also promoting this, it's hate speech, and it's like, and social workers are afraid, and it's like,
they're not afraid. They agree with us.
Right.
I've made more social workers.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, this is the then they fight you, isn't it? And then you win. From the Gandhi thing. Anyway, moving on. What I'd like to do before I move on.
Can we play back some of the?
I've got a really good bit of. We had loads of messages and communications, but there's a really good one from this foster carer, and I won't name her or her local authority simply because it's easier not to. But let's play her clip now, and I'd say to leaders and managers and people out there, if you have got something to say, don't come here and say it to everybody. We don't expect you to agree with us. We love the conversation. We love the debate. We love the nuances across the system. But we don't think that you should be saying, don't listen to us, or just don't listen yourself if it's uncomfortable or you feel challenged. But to start attacking it and other carers, it's crazy nonsense. So anyway, let's play this clip and then we'll go on to the news. So here we go.
I'm always going to advocate for you guys because I just think you're absolutely amazing. And I just think it needs to go in a different direction, But I have just listened to your latest podcast and oh my God, just so, it's just like he's in our head really. And he's so validating everything that we know is happening and seeing that other side of it and knowing they know it's happening. I just think that's really huge. And I think particularly this conversation with all three of you, because you asked such amazing questions and then you gave your layers to it, you and Louise, which is, that's what really, really brings so much out of it. So the you guys, you are just really killing this podcast business. And I think the validation that this will bring to so many will be like, oh God, I knew that. And I know this system is, but all we get is, gaslighting and all of that and minimizing because they all know it is as well, but just keep us in our place sort of thing. So just hearing that, I think it's so powerful. So, and I'm going to share it far and wide. And because it's something for everyone. You talk about connected care, you talk about recruitment, you talk about policy, you talk about all of it. And it's just having that insight from that person of that, ilk and that level. He's lived and breathed it clearly, is so useful, and understanding each other's life worlds, all those words. It's just like, this is what we need. We need more of that. I hope he's in some form of government role soon, or he's researching or feeding back, because, yeah, that's really important, isn't it? So I'm going to share that far and wide, and it was bloody awesome. So well done.
Well, that was pretty amazing, wasn't it?
Wow.
So
gosh,
I love
leaders,
it. Yeah.
if you're out there and you want to have a conversation with us, please do get in touch. The door is very much open. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, after hoping John will have opened some doors for everyone, set a precedence. So the biggest news, onto the news. So the biggest news, obviously, this week is the resignation of Keir Starmer, and what is increasingly look like as the current Andy Burnham getting the title of PM next. So I thought we'd have a very quick look at what that means for us, what it means for Josh McAllister or doesn't mean. And I don't know about Bridget Phillipson, but we'll concentrate on Josh, who is the children's minister. Interesting, according to Politics Home, which is a media outlet, they had this exclusive story. I wonder where they got it from. That a junior minister, which turns out is Josh, had called for Keir Starmer, been to a meeting with him, called for Starmer to step down as Prime Minister and set his departure timetable in a private meeting a couple of weeks ago. I think, as a junior minister, it's probably, anyway. But it's interesting that I think Josh he's such a master careerist, isn't he? And he could see the writing on the wall for Starmer, strategically made a move to ingratiate himself really with any incoming PM. Look, I was all for Starmer going type of thing, isn't it? And it's obviously this has been, apparently it was leaked by somebody, probably his own team. It's all this strategy, isn't it? So, when he was approached for comment on this, a meeting where he's told the Prime Minister to step down, even though no doubt it's something like his own team leaked it, he wasn't available for comment. They must all think we're idiots. Anyway, look, so I looked at Andy Burnham's record on fostering because, it's not someone you immediately associate with the sector. And there's all pros and cons. First of all, I have to say, I doubt very much whether fostering will be on his agenda when he comes in. It just won't be. It's got so much to contend with. But so foster care, what I was surprised to find out is that in October 2023, he personally, and you tell me if you've heard of this, he personally launched something called Greater Manchester Fostering Promise. First I heard of it too. So, and it was bringing together all 10 local authorities across the region. Now, I'll admit I'm not keen on the word promise, and Scotland do a similar thing. Children's services have become rather fond of promises, haven't they? Pledges, charters, commitments, vision statements. And we tend to be more interested in what happens on a Tuesday afternoon when their foster carers are struggling and need someone to answer the phone. That's the reality of it. That said, behind the Greater Manchester Fostering Promise, which Andy Burnham was part of designing, they do use some better words. They talk about trust with foster carers, trust, loyalty, honest communication, recognising foster carers as professionals, valuing their expertise and providing meaningful support. Some of that we've heard before, but some of it is a different nuance, isn't it? Trust, communication with the foster carers. If I'm being candid, though, I haven't heard of that Greater Manchester Promise before. It's not something that's been on everybody's lips. And if it was genuinely revolutionising fostering, I expect we would have heard about it. It's interesting as well that it's very like the regional care cooperatives. And there is no evidence that it's been successful. There's no evidence that it's increased retention or recruitment or outcomes for children. If anybody out there has that evidence, obviously we're really open to hearing that. But it was a new one on me. McAllister's legacy, I think, is fundamentally about redesigning systems and structures. He talks about love and he talks about the children, but what he doesn't understand is how pivotal foster carers are to that, the conditions existing so that love can, be available to children. What he's done is he's alienated the entire fostering sector by saying you don't work, you don't have a job. And he's made it very clear through his reforms that literally only reach 4% of the fostering population. The other 96% is not so bothered with. And, more mockingbird, more of that. The continual infantilization of the fostering workforce. And I would say Josh is leading that, if I'm honest. Burnham talks about us in different ways. So maybe that's things. Now, do we think Josh will hold his place? I would say probably. Although they're quite different in their approaches. The Manchester Promise looks a bit like the regional care cooperatives, which Josh is rolling out, and not, to be honest, they're not popular with everyone. And I'm talking leadership here. I've been approached by a lot of leaders saying that they're being shoehorned into these regional care cooperatives. And interestingly enough, which we'll come on to in a bit, is the adoption agency in the Preston Davy case was part of a regional adoption agents, thing, which is the same as regional care cooperatives. And, have they worked? I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on adoption, but I think it's very mixed. Anyway, so what do you think?
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? The sector has always had a pretty complicated relationship with Josh McAllister, as far as I can remember. And I think that ambivalence says something important here. There have been genuinely good intentions at play, as you say, but good intentions without systemic change start to feel very much like well-meaning wallpaper over some very significant cracks. Whatever happens next, the conversation about what children's services actually needs from its political leadership is one we absolutely cannot afford to put on hold while Westminster works out about its own internal choreography. we need to keep talking about it, and we need to, all of us need to have an opinion and get those opinions out there, because you know, unless politicians actually hear it, they won't know about it. And we've always, our opinions until more recently have always been suppressed at source, hasn't it? We haven't even been allowed to talk about how we feel. So I think if they want to improve the care system, we're not going to change the care system, and I'm actually of a view that that's impossible, but we can improve a hell of a lot of it. But they're going to have to want to do that if they want to do it. And what I think is really interesting is that we touched on many times before, Sarah, is that how many years have slipped by with the same leadership teams and the same faces around the same table managing its failure.
Yes.
So that's what
murky.
It's very murky.
Very murky.
I think if Mr. Burnham wants to improve children's social care, because it's eating up everybody's budget, so it is significant, I think he needs to go and have a look at that little table, look around it and say, well, what changes have you brought forward apart from rearranging your sentences and your words and putting in a few clickbait phrases like belonging and love, and which actually makes most of us feel like vomiting. But that's about me. I'm not a huge fan of politics, as you know. I just find it all wrong. Rearrange the deck chairs. It's all about careers and ambition and a bit of narcissism and sociopathic behaviour. I care about the children. You care about the children.
I care about the children, yeah.
And to care about the children, you need good people.
I care about the carers as well, because without caring for them, and I think that I have never heard them become more vocal, and I think that this is where they're getting this thing from, inciting a riot sort of thing. What was it? Some detractors, almost suggested when they got no traction from the original post they put up, they started escalating. And actually got no traction from we were inciting riots, and that, almost social workers would be killed. We were storming the Capitol, It was quite bizarre.
We were sitting there sipping our tea at a table.
And all of this
in Islington, and we were being accused of starting riots. And
I know.
A load of foster carers who were going, "Oh, it's a lovely day."
And all of this, because carers have actually found a voice.
Yeah, it's threatening, isn't it?
It's so threatening. So let's get on to another main story that we didn't do last week because we wanted to focus all on that interview. But it's the horribly, horribly sad case of little Preston Davy. I can't imagine that anybody hasn't heard about this or been touched by it. And I think there's something quite different this time. I've not heard the whole community quite like this. And also so angry about the drivel that's trotted out at a time like this, and how wholly inadequate the responses are. And do you know why? Because we've heard them all before, and we end up here with the worst abuse anyone could fathom. Unimaginable abuse over 4 months to this tiny little tot's life. And I think as carers, because we care about the children, we were... I don't know about you. I was just, I couldn't get the little boy out of my mind. I thought of him in his cot. I thought of him as I thought of not only the abuse, but the overwhelmingly, how lonely he must have felt, and how isolated and how confused. And oh God, I get myself in tears if I talk about it.
Sarah, you're going.
Just the thought of him, because you know what, when these things happen, the defense mechanisms swing into place, and nobody actually thinks about that little boy on a daily basis in 4 months. The abuse, that he came from a loving fostering home and then went into that. Anyway, so we get the phrase lessons will be learned again. That phrase is now sickening people. It's angering them beyond belief. And I'm simply amazed they think it's okay to keep using it. So all of you out there, stop saying that, because it's become code for lessons won't be learned. It'll all happen again. So shall we all just move on, please? There's nothing to see here, no one to blame. Then we get the Children's Minister, Dame Rachel de Souza, trotting out the usual stuff. I mean, are they just paid at the Commission's office to do rent a quote? Because if so, I'd quite like to apply for the position. It's quite easy doings, isn't it? And a few photo shoots. This is truly harrowing case and a very difficult day. You know, that's what she said. Oh, this is a truly harrowing case and a very difficult day for all those who loved Preston Daly. No shit, Sherlock. So what's their office been doing for the last 22 years since it was created, following the recommendations from the Victoria Klimbay inquiry? And yet here we are again. I think what's interesting is they've changed nothing. And that's the definition of madness, isn't it? They're all doing the same thing over and over again. Same rent a quote, same wringing of hands. You know, I know tragedies will happen. We know that. We can't avoid that in a way. But the sickening thing about these is they are avoidable. All the bold new claims, you know, and she's like, I need to know whether we could have prevented Preston's murder. We already know we could. We don't need an inquiry. Even if you just come down to the one single factor of the foster carers, who admittedly, when they handed Preston over, they felt that it was okay. But of course, then all the red flags started coming up. They started to be, when they went round for contact to see the little one, which they should be, that contact should be kept in place. It's so vital. They were refused entry. The only time they saw him, he didn't look right. He looked flat. He had no eye contact. You know, we have been talking to people who spoken to the foster carers, and those were red flags in themselves. Never mind the 40 other missed opportunities or whatever it is. And then, you know, Josh McAllister chimes in, doesn't it? You know, we're going to have independent scrutiny of safeguarding in Oldham. Well, so guess what? Like after the Haringey Baby P one, where it seems, you know, they're still totally inadequately handling child protection issues. That's in the news, not in my mind. And yet, guess what? They've just been handed outstanding. So it's like the government absolved them all of everything. No, you're fine. You're outstanding. Let's absolve you of all those, you know, all that guilt and shame. You know, well, Josh said people will look at it and feel sick. Well, I guess at least he's right about one thing. The uncomfortable truth is the system is remarkably effective at protecting itself. It gives itself permission over and over again in countless ways to stop looking, stop asking difficult questions, and ultimately stop protecting. It also shields itself from any meaningful accountability. Because in reality, let's face it, we know this, meaningful accountability is absent. Oh, it's so hard to accept, you know. What do you think, Louise?
The thing that sits with me after cases like this, and I know it sits with a lot of foster carers too, is that the foster carer who raised the alarm wasn't heard. That's not a footnote, is it? That should be the headline. No. Foster carers are frequently the closest adults to a child's daily reality. We know them, and we never ever, hardly ever recognised. And yet their concerns can be dismissed, minimalised, not even properly recorded. We talk endlessly about listening to children, which is right and necessary, but we also need a system that genuinely listens to the people caring for them. If a foster carer raises a safeguarding concern and nothing happens, that is systemic failure. Systemic failure, not an administrative oversight. And until we treat it as such, we will keep having these conversations. And I also think, for me, I just find it all too devastating. I really do. And it's interesting. This case, the perp was a teacher, and there was another recent case where the perpetrator was a social worker. Now, when I was a child, I was abused by a social worker, a male social worker, and no one believed me. No one believed me. We have got to stop this kind of ridiculous fear of reality. It's, oh, no, I can't believe it. All social workers are good. All teachers are good. All foster carers are good. No, they're not. And the people who get closest to children will go the extra mile to get access to children and babies, because that is their intention. And we've got to stop this ridiculous notion that this is not rife. This is going on all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that baby, we only find out about it when a baby actually dies.
When it actually
and I blame the assessment system. You know, I do this ridiculous singular assessor stuff and this silly nonsense of 45 minutes at panel with people who aren't foster carers mostly, that or adopters. I don't know how the adoption one works, but I think they have a very similar system. You cannot have a singular assessor in charge of people, especially if they might be, you know, malignant narcissists or perpetrators or whatever, because somebody will pick up on something that somebody else won't. You have to have a team at the beginning.
Exactly that.
You know, you spread it out, you know.
And on that
then you
team,
do strengths-based, you know, investigations where you find out about these people in a much different, safer way.
You do, and also on those panels at the Form F or whatever you want, you know, the new invention will be anti-burden. If you're listening, I very doubt it, but please get rid of Form F. Sarah, you've got a brilliant one. But if you have a team that is looking at people coming into to work with children, adoption, fostering, kinship, or whatever, get people on that team with their spider senses, like me, like so many people who have been abused, who know what they're looking for, who can feel it. We just feel it. We can feel it. We know it. We can see it. And what is the point of getting people to evaluate people for child abuse, potential child abuse, or already abusing, usually already abusing, if they don't know what they're looking at?
No, I know. And also, do you know what else as well? And we've got a big announcement coming up next week regarding our Foster Wiki campaigns manager. And she's run the Noah's campaign very successfully and is currently working with a lot of people and doing training and stuff. Now, she is passionate about nonverbal children. Now, there is such a lack of training and understanding about, they presume because they can't speak, they make presumptions for them. And the signs that child must have been displaying as a nonverbal child, that he was in distress. So we have to get people trained in spotting this. If they can't see it, that is so scary.
Well, they're complicit. If you're not educated, if you're not trained, if you are not aware of what you are looking at, who you are sitting next to, who you are in a room with, if you do not get that, then you are complicit. Because there is plenty of brilliant people out there who could roll out the most amazing. What it is, I think, is people still don't like it because it's icky. Because it's icky. You know, people said to me when I said, "Oh, you know, because I'm in that care leaver, system leaver thing." When I do have a lot of F it moments, and I just say it. I go, "Look, I was sexually abused. I've been raped." And then people, I'm thinking, that's not about me. That's about you, isn't it?
Rather push it under the carpet, even now. It doesn't exist in children's care. But the problem I have, the biggest problem I have, is how many other precedents are out there right now. When the adoption now, who of course are part of one of these regional care adoption thingies, RAAs, regional adoption agencies, which similar setup, I think, to the regional care cooperatives that are in fostering. They said, you know, it was completely defensive kind of reactions. And it was almost as though they made out it was just an anomaly, you know. It isn't. How do we know? And also, if non-verbal children, if people cannot recognize they are communicating 20 times a minute, non-verbal children, and if they cannot sit with a non-verbal child and understand the signs and what they are saying without speaking, then those children are in trouble. So we need to make change there. And we've got lots there's some exciting stuff coming up. That's all I'm going to say, because I can't reveal anything to next week. Shall we move on to the naughty step?
Oh, yes.
Shall I do my noise?
Yes.
I'm perfecting that. I'm in the shower perfecting that, you know. So this week's naughty step, we're not going to be very popular.
Are we not? Oh.
No,
Do we care?
because this week's award goes unequivocally, if that's the right word, it's too hot for words like that, to Derby City Council. They won't be happy bunnies, but I think it's well deserved. Now, before anybody from Derby writes any strongly worded emails, it's a very gentle, naughty step. No one's been sentenced to detention. No one's lost their pudding.
Are they still allowed an ice cream?
Do you remember that? You won't get your
pudding. That was always a punishment, having your pudding. Wow, I didn't like
what made me think of that. Anyway, they've not lost their pudding. In fact, Derby City Council are the only here because of a social media post that genuinely made me smile.
Ah.
So, well, in an ironic kind of way.
Was that a wry smile?
I think they might lose their pudding, actually. I think it was because they can't understand what I'm saying. It showed a team from Derby, leadership team, management teams, taking part in a relay race to promote fostering, like a park run type of thing. They did brilliantly too. They came 5th out of 15 teams. So fair play to them. Most of us in fostering would struggle to run for a bus. Never mind.
Have you seen it?
Never mind run a relay race. But TP to fair to got foster carers. Most don't have the free time anyway. Certainly not the spare energy left over to devote ourselves, let alone enough energy to develop a marathon fitness regime. We're too busy 24/7 looking after their children. So there they were, Derby City Council, on this lovely celebratory thing with the backs of all the management with their little sweatshirts on, all saying, you know, promoting fostering. And I guess what caught my eye wasn't the running, it was the phrase attached to this. Okay, this post was about leading by example, because they were there running in the park run with their T-shirts on that said Foster for Derby. That was leading by example, apparently. Now, that's an interesting phrase.
Confusing.
Because leaders absolutely should lead by example. I am not arguing with that. In fact, I'd argue that's one of the most important things leaders can do. So reading that post prompted a simple question for me. How many of the leaders in Derby proudly promoting fostering in that photograph are actually leading by being foster carers themselves? And before anyone starts reaching for the bloody smelling salts, I wasn't criticising them. I wasn't saying they should be. I was genuinely curious. We're constantly told, aren't we, that fostering's for everyone, for anyone. You don't have to be wealthy. You don't need to have a perfect family. You can work, even full time. You can have children of your own. Pretty much any circumstance whatsoever, as long as you've got a spare room and a big heart. And all of Derby's adverts say pretty much the same thing. Okay, so I presume they already have big hearts because they're working in children's services, and I'm pretty sure the majority of them will have a spare room. But to a man, without a doubt, none of them actually foster. So what's going on? So if senior leaders are passionate enough to put on the T-shirt and promote fostering, aren't fostering themselves, the reasons why become really interesting. Because whatever those reasons are, well, they're exactly the same reasons that stop thousands of other people coming forward. And shouldn't we want to know that? Perhaps it's time that we, really got down to this. Fascinated me, actually. Wasn't the question, it was the reaction. Because almost immediately, some of the responses became about me attacking hardworking people, criticising social workers, undermining recruitment efforts, or somehow taking a swipe at people who care deeply about fostering. That protectionism, defensiveness, turning it around on me on things that I hadn't even said. And I think, and I'm pro recruitment, we both are, but it was based on curiosity, because I thought that it was, we're asking the people promoting fostering why the barriers to them from stepping forward, it could really inform us of something, couldn't it? So, you know, meaningful change requires us to ask these questions. Funnily enough, on a side note, somebody said it was one of the local authorities up in the east, said, oh, that's Sarah Anderson, Louise Allen, they're responsible for destroying recruitment. I was like, yeah, might have done that yourselves already. I don't think we've done that in the last 20 weeks.
Got that one sorted.
Do you want the stats? So I think that's, you know, that's a really, really important question for me. If it's not as though some are and some aren't, when you could say, okay, so maybe the ones that don't have this reason or that reason, they universally don't. Universally, they don't foster. So what is going on? We need to know, and that will inform our marketing, getting carers in, going forward. Now, if we can't ask those questions without people assuming we're launching an attack, we may end up running very fast in completely the wrong direction, which I know, now I think about it, it's probably a perfect way to end what I've said, because that's a sort of relay race, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That defensive reflex that they throw at us and people like us when we ask very simple questions, it's something I find genuinely fascinating. I really do. And also, if I'm honest, a little exhausting, because it shuts down exactly the conversations we most need to have. The question isn't who's to blame, which is what they get all defensive about. Like, they're all to blame. The question is,
you do that again.
The question is, what are the barriers? And if the people closest to those barriers, those very professionals that you're talking about, who know the system inside out, or they claim to because they get paid to, aren't choosing to foster, that's not a scandal. That's data, enormously useful data. If only we'd stop treating the question as an accusation and start treating it as an opportunity to actually learn something. Because if they're not doing it, there's your reason why other people aren't.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, this is why I train foster carers, I coach foster carers, I do videos on it, you know, don't be defensive. Because when people are defensive, it suggests to me they've got something to hide.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that was emphatic. Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Murky. So there you are, Derby City Council. Well done. Congratulations. We will be doing some rosettes. So that kind of pony club, you know, I like that, goes with my background.
That's you,
really. I like a
you're,
rosette. I like a rosette. We can do a nice little rosette, you know, naughty step rosette, and we can send that to the councils. And then we're going to have the cup at the end of the year.
Great.
I don't know who's in. I might look back and see who's in the lead. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I think the DFE and the Gemma Collins videos got to be up there. Hasn't
pretty
it?
juicy,
Gotta
that one,
wasn't
it?
It was
I
pretty
like
good.
That. It was full of spice, that one.
Yeah, so let's move on to another deeply intellectual and serious part of our podcast. Word salad of the week. Now, word salad of the week is slightly opened up now to interpretation this week, because like all things in the fostering sector, we're going to be creative, ignore the original rules, and make it up as we go along.
That sounds like my day-to-day life.
This week isn't really about word salads. It's about the words themselves, more specifically how they're used, abused, recycled, repackaged, and then served back to us as though they've been just discovered. Now, also, I'd say these words are the luxury of those that don't foster. They are the luxury of those who spend hours writing their things and doing their little courses and going to the conferences, and then they go home at 5 o'clock and everything's tidy.
Don't think about it.
They don't actually have to have a foster child in the home. That would be far too much, but they can talk the talk. So you know the words I'm talking about: belonging, relational, connection. And I like this one: mattering. Mattering.
Muttering.
Mattering. No, not muttering.
Muttering. That's what we do. Just sit in a corner
No,
dribbling
Louise,
and muttering.
no. Stop it. It's not muttering. It's mattering, whatever that means when it's home. Trauma-informed, important words, absolutely. If you scroll through LinkedIn for more than 30 seconds, it starts to feel like I accidentally wandered into a cult meeting where everybody is instructed to use the same 5 words in their sentence. Sorry, LinkedIn. I do adore you, actually, but sometimes it just gets a bit much. The thing is, these words have become a professional virtue signaling they've used as though simply saying them proves something. Or, although mentioning belonging automatically means children belong, or dropping relational practice into a post means you've somehow transformed lives before breakfast. And I think what makes me laugh is many of these posts come from people so far removed from that front line, they might as well be reporting from Mars. Yet somehow, we're expected to believe that every strategic meeting, every restructure, every budget cut, every new initiative is deeply relational and centered in belonging. I mean, give me a break. Oh, and I like the other one I like is we're going to put the children first. Well, they're not.
Well, where have you been putting them?
Well, I know, wasn't that kind of the
You're
whole
admitting
point
that
of
you
it?
don't.
And who have you been putting first all these years? Mind boggles,
Yes,
and it's very murky. Boggles?
Yes, boggles.
It's the E.
Murky boggles.
The mind boggles. This. Oh God, we're losing our shit. Come on, this is supposed to be serious journalism. Modelling. Modelling and muttering.
It's all these words. I don't know. I feel like.
Oh dear. So the reality is these words have no meaning on their own, do they? Belonging isn't a strategy. Connection isn't a framework. Mattering isn't a vision statement. Trauma-informed isn't a badge you pin on your lapel after attending a webinar. The things only exist, and this is the big one, when the conditions are created for them to thrive and happen.
Yeah,
they're happening. Never mind mattering. They're happening things, aren't they? They're not achievement words or outcome words. A child feels they belong because someone consistently shows up. A young person feels they matter because somebody demonstrates they matter. Connection happens because relationships are built over time. I could go on, not because someone added to a bloody PowerPoint. I think they think these words like Harry Potter spells. The magic wand, just stand in front of a conference audience, wave your hands around and shout belonging, and apparently meaningful change magically appears across the entire sector. I know I'm being a bit mean. There are people out there that really mean what they're doing, but the amount of people that have never done the job, never involved themselves in the messy, unpredictable, difficult side ever, but go around handing out all these words. And there was one, I tell you, mutual ventures. I know I pick on them a bit, but seriously, I don't even know what they do.
Who are they? What can you tell
mutual
people
ventures?
Who are they?
They're like a consultancy firm that win all the government contracts.
Consultancy firm.
Yeah. So they got millions to run the regional recruitment hubs. They're not actually experts on foster care or anything like that. No. And then they do these blogs like leading with purpose. They just come out with these. They trot out with these whole sort of blogs and articles that have no meaning whatsoever. And I'm not, they probably turn around, they just don't understand. Well, actually, yes, I do understand. I have 2 degrees, many other accolades. I've had an extremely good education. I do understand. And I understand when I see people talking a load of rubbish with long words and fluffy word salads and get paid a bloody fortune for it while nothing's changing. What do you think?
I want to add something to that because there's I know. What really?
I bet you
do. I can't believe that. Because there's a specific flavour of this that I think is worth naming. There's a whole genre of thought leadership.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
looking
the
at
lovely,
you.
the thought leadership.
The thought leadership, the shared purpose. The article in the notes for this episode, I did see them. That is beautifully written, technically competent, and almost entirely disconnected from what it actually feels like to be a foster carer in the middle of the night, in the day, any time of the day, because you feel like a foster carer 24/7. The frameworks are elegant, very chivalrous. The narrative around the purpose and coherence is genuinely sophisticated, and I'm not dismissing any of it. But there is something quietly troubling about a sector that invests so heavily in strategic articulation and so comparatively little in the people doing the actual work. You can have the most coherent narrative in the history of children's services, but if the foster carer on the ground feels unsupported, unheard, undervalued, the narrative is not going to hold to a child. It's not going to hold the child in the home. What we are doing by having lots of these people trotting. Now I write, I write for a living. It still amazes me.
Yeah.
I failed every qualification at school, and I went to art school, so I didn't have to write. But I am fascinated by words, and I listen to words very carefully. And I think because I was so written off earlier on as being too thick to write, I listen with great enthusiasm, because I listen to children's social care leaders trot words out like show horses. They trot them out, and then they parade
Polish them
around,
up a bit.
polish them up, plait their
Chop them out
tails.
again, and it's all fashion, isn't it? It's trends and what's trendy now. What's the latest trendy
But
word?
as soon as something becomes trendy, it's dead. It's like street fashion that the big fashion houses then copy and try and sell back to street fashion. Street fashion has moved on, and it's anti-fashion. So I think what we're actually looking at is a whole sector built on words that have no meaning to the foster carers. The foster carers are the realists. The foster carers, we're the ones who every day do the blood, sweat, and tears in this sector. And as we go through this, Sarah, as we travel through this podcast series, and every time we do it, I feel affirmations. I feel I get pennies dropping. I get kind of, so if that for our listeners, as the foster carers are also going, I did think that, I did feel that, the validation that without us, none of them would have jobs anyway. The validation that we are infantilized, we're treated like idiots, when actually we hold all the knowledge, we're articulate, we
And
are
all the
clever,
cards.
we hold all the cards. And in that great wonderful movie Ants, where the locusts had been kind of taking the ants food all the time, the pixel, and then the ants suddenly go, but there's more of us than them. And then they have their food taken no more. And I think foster carers, we are described, this is quite shocking, and well, the whole sector seems to be run by accountants. So it's all about the money in the spreadsheet. And foster carers are described as gold bars. And children are described as commodities. And I want you to sit with that for a minute, because that's where we're at. So for all the fancy schmancy words, for all the belongings, and what was the other one? Shared purpose. All means diddly squat.
Muttering.
It means diddly squat when you are in a room with a child who is so traumatized, so hurt, in so much pain. And then you're trying to manage that situation the best you can with the flimsy training that you've received, whenever it was that you can't quite remember, and it was done on a PowerPoint, and you fell asleep, and then everything fell apart. What it actually means for us is that we hold the knowledge. And if these people were at all clever, they would use our knowledge. But as we keep coming to again and again, why don't they? Why do a few of them just want this to stay the same? Why stay the same at the
It's
risk
that
of
thing we were
destroying
talking
them?
about before, isn't it? It suits. I mean, why would Mutual Ventures, and there are lots of other like that, foundations, you know, Empower. Why would they change? They're making millions out of it. Millions. Why would they change? And also, the problem is, they are actually uneducated in the reality of what goes on. This is why this disconnect means that nothing improves. But then, if it did all improve, we wouldn't need them. Shall we go on to a break?
Yeah.
Because we were trying to stick to time, but I noticed we're already sort of a little bit askew. So we're off to a break and we'll see you when we get back. Okay.
This is an advertisement for Foster Wiki Support Plus. If you're a foster carer listening to this podcast and nodding your head, then this is for you. We founded Foster Wiki because we are carers. We have lived in the support gaps, so we know exactly what's missing. We know about the long hours managing complex trauma, the high-stakes decisions, the challenges of working in a fractured system, and the need for support 365 days a year. That's why Foster Wiki membership means so much to our members. This is support that really works. It's genuine frontline experience and understanding. It's solution-focused problem solving and real professional development through the National Foster Carers Qualifications. We want to support you to create a secure base for the children in your care safely and sustainably, whilst also feeling professional, confident and respected. The joining link is in the show notes. It's exceptionally good value, and currently there is an offer for annual membership with 2 months completely free.
Welcome back to Tales from the Kitchen Table. We've got to sort of like to try and interject with a few sort of stories of our own here, and whether we get time. I think we might extend this one to next week, let's see, but I wanted to push some reality into it. I'll say before we start that Louise and I, if we do choose to share our own stories, they will be suitably disguised for confidentiality. So one of the things we've learned through our own experiences, and I like to say as well, while it's Tales from the Kitchen Table, Louise and I have been besties for some 15 or 16 years. When we started campaigning together, and we were there were only a couple of us, and we'd chat to each other from our kitchen tables. Sometimes I'd be dog walking or you'd be dog walking, and one would be the kitchen table and the other kitchen table, you know. It was very much, and still is, this family-based care. And we would sit at our kitchen tables and we would laugh, we would cry, we would be angry, we would put the worlds to rights and say what we were going to do and how we were going to forge change and what needed to happen and what wasn't happening for our children. And we were aghast at the way we were all treated. So that's where that comes from, Tales from the Kitchen Table. It's very, very real. And I think actually what you share with Louise and I now on this podcast is really what you're doing, is sitting at that kitchen table with us. That's how I like to think of these podcasts, is sitting with us, having the very conversations that we've had for years, just more publicly. For one thing we've really, really learned, fostering never follows straight lines. And I think that's what today's conversation is about, the lived reality of fostering. It's beautiful, it's messy, it's frustrating, exhausting, funny, yes, deeply rewarding. You know, we share our home with these children and we see and experience the world in extremely unique ways. Now, foster care can feel like a world full of models, frameworks, assessments, professional language. There are always new ideas, new approaches, new models, new way of describing what care looks like and how you this is very, very interesting, isn't it? How you should do it. Yeah, you know, rarely from those who have done it themselves. So, you know, come on, I'm saying many of them do bring, of course, important, valuable insight, and they help us understand children more, and that's very important. However, when you strip all of that away, what you're left with are the children, the foster carers and the families, each bringing their own stories, strengths, challenges, personalities. And I think what's really important for me, Louise, is that no two children are the same. Not one. No child is ever the same. No two carers are the same. No two fostering families or households are the same. And that's probably one of the things that makes fostering both so challenging and so extraordinary. Most experienced carers, they don't work from a script or model. They take ideas, they pull in all those ideas from different places, but they hold on to what works and leave behind what doesn't, and gradually develop their own way of being with the children. They learn through experience, reflection, instinct, mistakes, successes, thousands of everyday interactions that make up family life. And I think, well, I don't know, what about you, Louise? But I think if fostering teaches us anything, it's that there is rarely one right way to do it. What do you think?
Absolutely, Sarah. Because in a sector that can feel intensely prescriptive, the acknowledgement that there isn't one right way is both obvious and quietly radical. Every placement is its own particular equation. Same carer, different child, completely different dynamic. Same child, different stage of their journey, completely different needs. Excuse me. The frameworks can help us orientate, but they can't do the work. Only the relationship can do the work. Now, I think one of the reasons I love fostering as much as I do, otherwise I wouldn't still be here, is I think it's one of the most creative things I've done. I mean, I'm an artist and I'm an illustrator and I'm a writer, but I think when I meet foster carers, they probably would not call themselves creative or artists, but the work they do is exactly that. The work they do is about navigation, experimentation, and forgiveness of when you get it wrong, because we are only human and we do get it wrong, but we survive it, and we survive it because we're creative. And I think if foster carers were seen truly for the work that they do and how we do it, we would all be in jobs worth a fortune, because we deal with so much. We are great managers, we are great negotiators, but our biggest problem is negotiating those systems, isn't it? And navigating those systems. And there the skills dwindle because we all pull on our own transferable skills, and maybe in more professional settings, in other lives, we get things done. But in fostering, you are constantly like a mouse on the wheel going round and round. And your relationship...
Hamster.
Yeah, little hamster. We don't have mice, do we? Because they're scary. Not in our house, because we've got so many cats. If they stay alive, like things. But we have such skills, and the work we do is so creative. It's so innovative, and it's visceral. We feel it all the time. And it's the idea that the work we do is so sometimes can be our nervous systems can be so challenged, and no one ever, the whole sector talks about doing it to us or the children, but none of us can work with the children if our nervous systems are exploding, and our nervous systems are not exploding because of the child, they're exploding because of the consequences around their nervous system. Because if we don't report it, we don't write it up, if we make one false move, if we get one thing wrong, if we don't do this or don't do that, then we are a failure, then we will be challenged. I don't know anyone
else. It's so at loggerheads at what we do, isn't it? The creativity, the care, the family-based care, the every single minute decision making, because we all do it unconsciously, the getting it right, the getting it wrong, sometimes the blame and all of it is so at odds with someone coming and sitting in our room supervising us.
Well, you say supervising, that's like we're little children at school. We need a dinner lady, so we're supervised for some of the most dynamic creative work we'll ever do. And it becomes
very true. Yeah, I've not thought of it like that. Yeah.
Yes, it's about drafts, practices, experiments. It's about mixing things up. It's about forgiving yourself when it goes wrong, and understanding that
and we're going to talk about that in a bit. That rupture and repair actually is central to what we do.
Those bits can be the most meaningful and powerful, and we want to see them as opportunities, but the system would rather move the children on.
I know. Well, I mean, and also let's talk about their training. It's worth saying at the start of it's worth saying that there really is no such thing as new models in this space. Okay. There is no such thing as a new model. And we get them every year, don't we? I mean, therapeutic companies turn into, suddenly overnight, they're now trauma-informed companies. A lot of people make a lot of money out of training. Lots of new ones popping up all the time. It drives me a bit mad. But most of what we are seeing, of course, is old thinking, rebranding. This comes from my own psychotherapeutic education. But it rarely gets acknowledged. And these frameworks tend to be just regurgitating ideas that have been around for decades. But no one actually says it. They go, oh, look, our new idea. We made it up all on our own,
Like hell.
Interesting. They're not new. So let's go back and look at where just briefly. We had Carl Rogers in the 1950s, speaking about empathy, authenticity, unconditional positive regard. So what is that? It's empathy, non-judgmental, curiosity. Where have we had all that before? They never actually say, actually, I nicked this idea from here. The idea that people begin to heal when they're properly seen and understood. Look, it's not new. Maslow reminded us that people are more than their problems or behaviors. Okay.
Yeah.
They are whole human beings with needs and potential. We keep hearing this now, but these are from the 50s, even earlier. They're whole human beings with needs and potential. It's really important. Winnicott, again, 50s, gave us the good enough parent. Not perfect, just present and emotionally available. Anna Freud helped us see that behavior is communication. And yet you get it on all over now. Behavior is communication, Anna Freud was saying it in 1950. It's not new. We've got, Melanie Klein, for instance, explored how early relationships shape a child's inner world. Paulo Freire challenged us to think about power and whose voice is heard. Viktor Frankl focused on meaning and identity. Social pedagogy placed relationships and shared experience at the center of care. And the secure-based model brought us attachment theory into everyday fostering in a structured way. And so nothing is new. It's all based on these old, very solid principles. What stands out for me, however, is it's really important, is there is no one way. And even more, when you're actually on the front line, it is very different in the moment.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very different in the moment.
It's a completely, what looks good, it's like architecture, isn't it? What looks good on paper, but in real life, in 3D, when people are actually building, it's very different. Like kitchen design, you put that cupboard up there, I'm only 4'9". So it's this sort of madness. But as you were talking, I was thinking about, let's talk about my comparison of the arts, is that you were given those dates. You see, for me, the art world became incredibly dull post-80s, post-70s. We had all the art movements post-war. And we had, we had abstraction, we had jazz, we had all those things. And then in the 80s, everything got repackaged, reprocessed. And now we're seeing a kind of repeat, but nothing really new and exciting is happening anymore.
I know, even flares came back, didn't they?
Yeah. Have we run out of ideas? So now are we just collaging them all together? I mean, I trained as a therapeutic foster care, and the training was generally good, well-structured, evidence-based, good delivery, delivered by people who clearly know their biscuits. But I want to be honest, nothing in the training prepared me for the specific, unrepeatable reality of a Pacific child in my Pacific home. The training gives you a map at best, conscious parenting. No, forget that. We're doing this. Okay, we're doing pace. All right, forget that. We're doing this. That knowledge. I remember one woman, a trainer, said to me, "Oh, you did conscious parenting. I want you to forget all that." How can I forget all that? You told me. Oh, I got to learn it all. But the training gives you a map. The placement is the territory, isn't it? So you've got a map and you've got this child in your home. That is your territory. And the territory, as any foster child will tell you, is considerably more interesting than the map. Grab the map. Let's go around this corner. What's over there?
Well, let's
And
let's find the roughest terrain in that territory we possibly can.
Yeah. And that over time you build your own internal model, don't you? For you and that child, that one child. You can have 4 other foster children in your life, but you and that one child, this is your collective internal model. It draws on everything: the formal training, the reading, the supervision conversations, the sheer accumulated weight of the experience. But it becomes yours, tailored for you. It's personalized, adaptive, and constantly being revised, which I argue is exactly as it should be. So to sit and to watch a death by PowerPoint with somebody telling you how to do the work that they will never do, I no longer
well, absolutely. And how often do you, I will say all the things that others don't say out loud. How often do you listen to a load of stuff and then go, let's get home back to normal,
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of it. And I do honestly believe that everybody should understand about children's trauma, looking behind the behavior, stuff like that. But so often we just, go, whatever. And then we'll go back and we'll deal with it in the way that we understand. It's not to say that we shouldn't always be improving and learning. I'm just saying the learning isn't right. The training isn't right. And it's on repeat. If it really was that effective, then we would have whole different outcomes for children. We wouldn't have so many placement breakdowns. I know they're for different reasons as well, but often carers do get overwhelmed by behavior. So that is a training, there are trainings there. But of course, they only want training that forges that control still. And of course, it just changes all the time. So if we look, for instance, looking beyond behavior. So it's terribly, terribly important, no doubt about it. And we hear the phrase all the time, don't we? Look beyond the behavior. It's become one of those statements that everybody agrees with immediately because it sounds right, it feels like, and it tends to appear in the same places as coffee, biscuits, PowerPoints, and slightly uncomfortable conference settings. But it is important on the front line. But the reality is very different when you're living it. What does it look like at 11 o'clock when you've been sworn at again? When somebody has been deliberately damaging your property or you've been pushed to the edge of your patience? When rejection, isn't an incident anymore, it's just part of the pattern of the week. What does it look like when a child's gone missing again? And you and I know so much about that. And although it's logged as absconding, you've got a fairly strong idea of where they are or missing, but you know where they are. And you're just wanting for everyone else to catch up with you, what you already know. And what does it look like when you're exhausted beyond anything reasonable, running on empty, trying to hold on to everything, holding it all together with very little meaningful support? While serious health concerns have been raised repeatedly and still not properly addressed for the children. That's the gap, isn't it, between the phrase and the reality? And yet experienced foster carers do this instinctively over and over again. You stop seeing behaviour as the whole story. You start to notice that what sits underneath it. The child that's often shouting at you is frightened, overwhelmed. The one pushing you every which way is often the most desperate for connection. I can't thinking of an example of behaviour. I remember one time, for instance, that's the other thing, isn't it? When you're 2 minutes late for school and, you get admonished by school and they get a black mark against their thing, that child hasn't been in school only 20% attendance before it reached you, and then suddenly it's 100%. And what happens to get that child to school, even every morning, is extraordinary. And then they're like, oh, you're 2 minutes late. And I want to sort of shout out, well, you're lucky we're here at all. But you can't see what's gone on to get this child to school. But I remember one morning, a teenager finally got them out of bed. They really were kicking their heels, not getting ready. I shouted up, it's 5 minutes to go, sort of thing. Oh, sorry, yeah, F off.
You didn't swear, did you?
Came down. I did swear. Came down the stairs, barged past me, elbowed me back into the kitchen physically, shouted "F off, you thing" in my face, stormed through the bathroom, shut the door, banged the door. Now, a lot of people would say, "Oh, you shouldn't put up with that behaviour. Oh, you, what on earth would you allow them to do that?" Because I said nothing. What people wouldn't have seen is, or heard, was I knew the night before one of the parents had suddenly come back on the scene.
Yeah.
And there were phone calls. And this young person was so excited to reconnect with a parent. It's like winning the lottery for them.
Yeah.
But by the late on, we have tech time, so the phones went downstairs at 10:30. Thank goodness. But I heard that young person get up about 7:30 and get the phone. Then I heard yelling, shouting, screaming, anger, crying in a conversation with said parent on the phone behind their bedroom door. So before that child even appeared, I knew they were, they call it dysregulated, I know, but it's not that. It's heartbreak. They were heartbroken, grieving again and again, grieving. I knew, and that was out of character for that particularly lovely young person, to be swearing and pushing me about. It's really out of character. So the reason I ignored it is two things. Firstly, I understood it. But no, it's not good enough. I know that they shouldn't be allowed to behave like that. But secondly, I knew there was no point in addressing it there and then. None. So I just was patient and waited, and eventually they came out of the bathroom, sauntered towards the door. So we were obviously going, picked up the rucksack, walked out the door and slammed it on me. So I turned it up again and walked down, get in the car. And then, of course, we get in the car and things start to just ease a little. I still don't mention it. I do not mention it because I can already feel the young person feeling sad that they'd done that. Guilty. You didn't deserve that, really. It was because of something else. And the only thing I said on the way to school was this young person's mad about theatre, musical theatre. And I said, I forgot to tell you last night because you were very preoccupied, but your was it everything everyone's talking about Jamie or something? There was a thing, a show. I said that the tickets had come through and we'd spent a small fortune on them for this person. And that lifted the mood immediately and also broke the ice. And then I dropped the young person at school, and then got there. Oh, you're 2 minutes late. If they hadn't, oh, that's a black mark. Oh, you ever I said, you're not giving the detention. No, you're not. I'm picking this young person up. You pick a bone with me in front of the young person, actually, because it said to the young person, I understand your pain. And actually getting here today, I mean, how many teachers going through a terrible divorce or having a family bereavement or something terrible can then go and concentrate at school, So anyway, by about 10 o'clock, I'd got some lovely texts saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And I knew that would come. It wasn't, the bad behavior wasn't okay. I didn't even have to say it. And, I think that's a true example of how in reality we look beyond the behaviors. But then they didn't have the best of school days, but nobody thought there to look beyond the behavior and ask why that young person was struggling. And it wasn't a very good day. But we did know, and foster carers do know and see this. They do know. Anyway, I've gone on a bit, but I thought it was a good example of that.
That's an excellent example, and I think it's something I'd like to explore further with you, Sarah, and perhaps our listeners, is the relationship we have with school, with our foster children. I don't want to go into it now, but for every child I have looked after, and I still do look after, you can do the most wonderful work and then it gets completely unraveled.
It does.
So that, you know, but the gap between phrase and reality is something I come back to a lot. Look beyond the behavior. It's true. I got my binoculars out and I'm looking beyond it. It's also at the wrong moment, slightly maddening advice, because you're not failing to understand the behaviour. You understand it perfectly. Foster carers do, as we keep saying. You know exactly what's driving it. You can probably map it back to a specific experience or trigger, just as you just described. The understanding is not the problem. The problem is that understanding something and being able to hold it gracefully at, I don't know, at 7:30 in the morning when you're trying to get to school, when you've got an early start and two entirely different things altogether, you know, reality versus text. I also think we do foster carers a disservice when we imply that theoretical understanding automatically translate into composed, regulated practice in the moment. You know, I knew that made you laugh.
It can't do. We're human beings.
It takes time and support and a fair amount of comparison. I will tell you very quickly about one young woman we looked after. And it is about school, but what happened with us later is that no one had told us in the referral, those referrals. Oh my word, nothing had been, you know, she'd had a terrible time at school. Now, this young woman, as it turned out, was sexually abused every morning by her mum's boyfriend on his way to work, which was, I think, drug dealing. And then she'd go to school, and then she was angry, and she'd had to get a taxi to school for some reason, or she got a lift or something with another man that was moaning that she was late and that she had an attitude and all the rest of it. Then she gets to school, and then she's late, and then everyone's having a go at her. She goes into double maths, and it's a male teacher who's shouting at her and saying, "You don't pay attention, you don't do this, you don't do that." So she picked up a chair and threw it at him. Then she gets marched out, and then she's excluded. And then we get the excluded. Now, I then say to her, I always take the position of, I believe the child absolutely 100% until we don't. If we
me
don't.
too.
But I totally
We're their team, aren't we?
We are their team. We've got their back. And so then when I unpacked it all, and I found out what was going on, and you know, and then it was interesting. My stepdaughter was staying with us at the time, and we were going all through this together and helping and supporting this young woman who was really happy at home and much calmer. And she said, "Isn't it interesting?" She said, "If I went to work," she was just finished her apprenticeship. If I went to work, and I said I had been raped, I'd probably have 2 or 3 weeks off, and there would be flowers sent to my house. If this child had been raped systematically every morning by her mum's boyfriend, it's then told off when she can't cope. And here lies the problem, is that we treat children appallingly. We have different rules for their emotional well-being. And I don't think a lot of those flouncy, wancy, wooey words that get about have any connection with what happens with children. Because they don't have any connection with what happens with children, we are then left as foster carers to interpret, reinterpret, reimagine what we've been told to do, which gives us limitations. And I always say that it's de-escalation. It's care, foster care is care with limitations. Because if we do something wrong according to policy, or we haven't seen something, they'll come down on us like a ton of bricks. But you watch them run for the hills safely. So we just kept this young woman at home, and I ended up homeschooling her because she was safe, and she's ended up doing brilliantly. But it's that kind of the reality. What is
absolutely. Yeah, and it's like I like that you picked up on de-escalation there, because that doesn't always look what it looks like. For instance, you'll get de-escalation techniques and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes de-escalation in our house is humour. And I mean, I never forget one young person loved to argue. I mean, but proper, really, I'll grab the last word, proper shouting, being brought up in a household that was the norm, if you like. And we sort of said, it isn't the norm here. Let's try and how can we change it? We'd try to explore that with her. But when she was off on one, and also as an adult in that heated moment, yes, you have to bring your regulated self. But, in the reality of that moment, you can get it wrong. But if sometimes it's as simple as taking a beat.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That is probably our biggest tool in fostering. Take a beat.
Yeah.
Take a moment.
Maybe do nothing.
Hold the space. Do nothing. It's one of our biggest
things.
I always remember as well with this, what we did with this young person to break that cycle of the last word and shouting and starting arguments, then needing to finish them. I said to her one day, right, you're obviously going to have the last word again, because that's how, she looked very angry and pleased with herself at the same time. And I said, so what I'm doing is I'm going to give you the last word. And she stared at me and I said, go on, you can have the last word. I give you my permission to have the last word. And she said, yeah, but that's not the same, is it?
Oh, I love that.
I don't want the last word if you're giving it to me. And then we burst out laughing. She was like, you're messing with my head. And we just hooted with laughter, and it became synonymous with getting out of that cycle. I said, I'd say, do you want me to give you the last word? And she'd say, no, I don't. And then we'd burst out laughing. One of the other things with that young person is she did it at school all the time. So we discussed about how can, you really love arguing, don't you? So she said, well, so many toasters. That's our new word, isn't it?
Yeah, toasters.
There's a lot of toasters out there. How can I said? So what? Long story short, she went to the head and asked if she could set up a debating society. This is after we made the plan at home, obviously.
Yeah, love it.
Anyway, so she became the chair of the debating society, and they had incredible debates and actually represented the county.
Wow.
Her debating. I know, isn't that fantastic? And actually, the arguing completely subsided in class. And she learned how to put her argument forward in a really, really great way.
But that's what I'm talking about.
I know, creativity. Yeah.
Our children don't fit in any boxes, and nor do we.
No. Do you know what? I think what we've got to do there is, I think we need to do. I'll let you can chat, and then I think what we'll do is we'll save we've got a couple of other ones. The child isn't the only one in the relationship. I think that's very important. Rupture, repair, and getting beyond blame and shame. I think we'll have to leave it till next week, because we're already over time. And I think that the stories that we're interjecting are important for showing what it's really like out there. Have you got any more examples?
Oh, I've got tons and tons and tons of examples of how nothing goes by the book, and you can have a little knowledge. And I remember doing conscious parenting, which I still got a little booklet in a drawer.
Conscious parenting? That one's passed me by. What's that then?
Conscious parenting, actually, I can't remember. It's like, that's the trouble.
Is that like regulation, deregulations?
Well, it was actually designed by somebody.
Thoughtful parenting, is it?
And I've forgotten his name.
Conscious, yeah.
And basically, you go up with them, you come down. So maybe it's another version of regulating.
That's regulation, really,
isn't it? But it was done by Dan's. I can't remember Dan Hughes. I don't know.
That's Pace, isn't it? Dan Hughes, I think.
Is it? I don't know. I can't remember. There's so many. Anyway, it was like learning a complicated dance, and I kept getting it wrong. But I've got that sort of brain. I'm so free flow that I don't. The moment that someone says, "Right, do it by script," and you do this, I'm like, no, I don't
freeze.
can't. So how can I look after a child? And you are looking after them more than ever when they're in that sort of emotional state. You're looking after them. But what I have learned, we had a comical moment when we did, 10 or 15 years ago, Lloyd and I, that's my husband, we went on de-escalation training, and then it was all about physicality. And we were learning about, you have to sit there and you cross your arms around them.
I remember that. Yes, God, they've gone
girl,
out with the
thank God. And we had a 9-year-old child that would not go to school, and she'd actually pulled it. She hid under her bed, and we had to take the slats of the bed off to get to her. And then she was wrapping herself up with the electrical cables. I mean, it's a proper mess. So Lloyd ran downstairs and turned all the electrics off and came up and cut the cables just so we could unravel them. And then she was absolutely, going crazy and really struggling, and was quite violent. So we looked at each other and said, okay, I think we need to go into... And then we had a social worker that had done the training. So it wasn't actually an official trainer, it was a social worker. So, it was always lost in interpretation. Had her on speakerphone because we thought, we're not doing this alone. We might get an allegation. So she was saying, put your hand across her on the left, and it was hysterical. Put your right arm on her shoulder, and
brand new carers. Sounds like a game of Twister.
This poor child was sat between us, and I just looked at her and she just started laughing, and I just started laughing. I thought, that is probably the worst thing I've ever done. So right, thank you very much. We're off now. We all went to the shops and had lunch. But it's
I think also you've hit a nail on the head there, is that formulas and tools and frameworks of how you do something in a situation. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of great stuff out there. I'm not knocking it all, but I just feel that fostering isn't as formulaic as some people. When you're sitting there in a crisis, you can't think, oh, now step 1, or am I at step 3? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Actually, what we're going to talk about next week is probably the most important thing, is that actually all of this begins with you in a way. And that's what regulation, deregulation is about. That's what curiosity and empathy are really about. It's an innate, inbuilt way of being, not so much of a framework that you learn. The frameworks that you learn are important, but they touch into who you are. And I think one of the biggest things for me is about knowing our own triggers, knowing our own selves. And we'll talk about that next week. And we'll also talk about rupture and repair. And we've got lots of examples of that, because I want to get beyond this blame and shame. I want to get it out there. And let's think of some really good examples, and I've got many, when it's gone horrifically wrong. And you've stood back and thought, what was I even thinking?
Yeah, I've had plenty of those.
I don't think that's going in my reporting and recording.
Well, then there's the swift edit, isn't there? You do think, what should, I mean, as Lloyd and I, because we foster together on literally on so much of the work we do, we go, I'm not putting that in the report. Are you crazy? Because what will that sound like? I know that all supervising social workers and managers, registered managers, are going, that's how you can't say that. Oh, you see it from our point of view, how that will be misinterpreted. You will run with it. It will cause trouble. So there's a little bit of discretion, isn't there? It's a bit
but also that stops actually. What a missed opportunity. That's why we set up some the National Foster Carers Qualifications Foster Wiki, do some practice groups. Where safe spaces run properly, risk assessment stuff and safeguarding well embedded, but a safe space where people can discuss their practice. Because when a supervising social worker comes round, they're not your friend. It's a professional relationship. They are actually there. The clues in the word supervising, they can call them key workers and call them what they like, but they are there to ensure you're following the national minimum standards, the statutory regulations, and they are also there is a bit big brother. So what it does is it eliminates that incredible space for reflection, for learning, for growing, all of those things.
And perhaps that's what's missing in fostering is the other person, one person
Yes.
who is independent, that can sit in a room full of foster carers, no managers, no social workers, and say, let it all out.
Well, that's what our groups do, really. But you know, in an extremely professional, boundaried way. But you know, and everybody that runs our groups has done the group coordinators course, so they're not just some sort of free-for-all, but creating that, and that really comes from my therapeutic background and supervising counselors and therapists in the NHS, is that you create a safe space. Because the other thing is, my voice has gone up. The other thing is that they don't consider what we do as practice, do they?
No, they haven't got a clue. Sarah, they haven't got a clue.
They don't actually consider that what we do is, well, Josh McAllister said it. You don't have a job, you don't work. They don't consider that we are, a lot of us, extremely experienced, trauma-informed by nature or not, or by training, whichever. They don't understand that. So they don't think we need to discuss our practice in that kind of a way.
Back to what we keep going back to. They want it that way. They must want it that way because it suits a lot of people who make a vast amount of money and get a lot of privilege and a lot of benefits from our children being in pain and from foster carers feeling unrepresented and unvalued.
Yeah. So we don't want to leave it there, do we?
No, let's not leave it there because that's just too depressing. Well, I think that we can talk about your merch.
Yeah, well,
as I was talking to you,
it is positive though. It is positive what we've been talking about, because I know as well as you do that those young people I'm talking about are now doing amazingly well.
Incredible,
but you know, we've got them. They went on against all the odds. Our young people go to university, or they succeed hugely in their own way, and that might be having their own families because they've always wanted that. But not a social worker in sight, 3 children, partners. You know, all of those young people we've worked with in our way have gone on to succeed. And also that's what we were talking to John Pierce about. Why aren't they listening to our expertise?
I don't know, because I can only go back to maybe a few of them don't want to.
I know, it's that whole murky thing again.
Hold all the strings.
Let's wrap it up on murky.
Murky.
Because I'm so hot now. I'm so hot. I need to go and moan like a banshee, mad wild woman.
Well, I just had a message from one of my children who's being home tutored, so I could talk for hours about schools, and she just said, "Can we go and get it's there are other brands available, Greggs." You know, you got one that likes Greggs, you got one that likes McDonald's, and they all have to have their own, and they never share the brand. But she's carved out her own brand, and she won't cover.
No brand.
So I've now got
there are other brands available.
Go to a hot place and watch her heat a hot sausage roll. And then get about, I feel like it not. But that's what we do, isn't it? We go from picking them up to driving them around for this overpriced Starbucks. You know what? I took the other one I've got who loves the Starbucks. We go on these long drives, huge long drives. Sometimes I've driven like for hours because she needs to. And I always go to a Starbucks first. And she likes a matcha coconut milk strawberry. And I've been doing that for about a year, and then or 2 years, or even longer. And I thought, these are tasty. I'll get one. And we drove through. We get pup cups for the dogs if it's not too hot, or not in the moment. But take the
Puppuccinos.
Yeah, that's it, puppuccinos. And they said, I said, I just handed over we're at the drive-through, and I handed over my card, and she said, that's £13.50, and I went, what? When did that?
I know. What has all that happened? I know. We don't even go out for meals anymore.
And I said, look, I'm going to bring a bottle of water with me. I'll pay for you to have yours. But I can't do that.
No, it's gone absolutely wild, hasn't it? You can't go out for 2 coffees for less than a tenner. I know. It's bonkers.
They love all that, don't they?
Bonkers.
The girls and the boys love a mocky mookie marku and a whippy wappy flatty, so that it all costs a fortune. So
I know.
no, you do that
It
a few
just
times
does
a week.
cost a fortune, and also it's kind of expected, which is bad, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
So
I know,
anyway,
I've got
shall we
to-
let's move on and wrap up. I'm off
Yes,
to actually, I've got some placements to stabilize,
Ooh.
which we are actually in the process of doing very well. People on a helpline. So my
Nice.
team are working on it. They'll come back to me, and and of course the services and agencies don't see any of this work.
No.
We magically stabilize these placements behind the scenes. We need a blooming medal, if I'm honest. And last week we saved 2 from leaving fostering, and stabilized 3 placements by helping them work with their agency and local
So how
authority.
much money have you saved them then?
I know.
Yeah,
And it's not much.
interesting,
It's
isn't it?
$6.99 a month for a carer.
No.
I mean, those that take it up say, I don't know what we would have done without you.
Amazing.
So
Good
you
work.
know, yeah.
Right, let's go. I'm going to go and get a hot car to a hot
Oh,
restaurant.
I'm just going to go and moan, I think. Be British all over the place, yeah.
Oh, you are. You're proper
All right,
British,
my lovely. Right, I will speak to you later. And everybody out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for being at our kitchen table with us. And we will see you next week.
Sending lots of love. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.